Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. So I recently purchased some nail varnish off of Etsy and it came with this beautiful packaging. There's a couple of little stickers inside, which is always a winner if you're a crafter, some bits of twine, string, and then this gorgeous patterned floral tissue paper. So I thought it's a shame to throw it away, let's turn it into some cards. So I've got an A4 piece of cardstock. I've got some Slap It On matte medium, but Ranger multi-medium matte would be fine for this. Any kind of glue that's going to dry matte that can be used for kind of tissue paper art. And I'm just covering this A4 panel with my paintbrush, with the glue. And then once I've got a good coverage on that, I'm going to carefully lay the tissue paper over the top, as flat and as smooth as I can possibly get it. And basically we're turning it into patterned paper. So I'm just smoothing it out, and then I can trim off the excess with my Tim Holtz long bladed scissors and just remove the excess, because again we can make some more patterned paper from this. And then when I turn it over, you can see how the white cardstock really kind of helps make the colours on the tissue paper pop, and so it really stands out. It looks so pretty. So I'm just going to repeat the same process now with some of the blue tissue paper and some more of the floral tissue paper, just so that it's all kind of ready to go. I do pop the floral one to one side to just dry before I use it, and I do the same with the blue one and then this one. Now, of course, you could just use the tissue paper straight to card blank, and there's lots of different things that you can do with tissue paper. This is just an idea that I had to try and use this up, and I wanted to make it a little bit more sturdy so that I could die cut from it and just make it a little bit easier to turn it into cards. Of course, you could just use pattern paper if that's all you've got in your stash, or any kind of packaging that you get. Think about ways that you could use it in your card making, especially as a lot of companies put a lot of time and effort into making pretty decorative packaging. So I've pulled out some scraps of cardstock that kind of matched the colours in the tissue paper. And what I'm going to do is I've got this Sizzix die set and then this gorgeous border die, and I'm just going to do some die cutting. And as you can see, I've got it all ready to go to the side of me now. So for the first card, I'm just going to trim off a panel that measures 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. Most of the cards I'm making today are standard UK A7 card blanks. A6 card blanks. So they're like 5 7/8 by 4 1/8. But any size card would be fine for this. I'm going to pop this panel up on some foam pads and just place that in the very centre of the card blank, so that I've got a nice white border around the edge. I'm going to pull in some of these die cut flowers, and I'm just going to use the Cosmic Shimmer quick grab glue to just stick some of those down onto the front of the card base. Now, I didn't worry about colouring the poppy stems here because they're going to be covered up by all these other die cut pieces, so I wasn't worried about the fact that they weren't green or anything. I'm just going to pop that centre larger flower up on some foam tape, and then I go and grab another leaf to add in the bottom corner there. It's really quick and easy to just kind of pull these cards together, and I just think they looked so pretty. There's a little bit of white glue showing through in the centre there, but that does dry clear, so in the final photos you'll see that that's not there. So I've got this gorgeous stamp set by Justine Hovey from the It's Just Paper range. It's a new brand to Craft Stash. I only bought the sentiment stamp set because I absolutely loved it. I thought there was some lovely sentiments, really nice fonts. So I'm just using this with love, and I'm just rounding off the corners diagonally just so that it gives a slightly different shape to the sentiment. And then I'm just going to add some yellow enamel dots just to really finish off the card. So I think this is really pretty. I think it really looks pretty with the pattern paper behind the simple die cut flowers. And yeah, so there's the first card for today. So for the second card, I initially trimmed down a panel 3 3/4 by 5 1/2, but then I decided that actually I want to get a panel that's half the size of the card blank, so I cut it down to 2 1/2. So it's 2 1/2 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to pop some foam pads on the back of this, and I'm just going to attach that to the bottom half of the card blank. So this is just a really quick and easy card, and a great way of using up paper scraps as well if you've got some small strips left. I've got this gorgeous die from Simply Made Crafts. It was from a mini album die set from Craft Stash. And I'm just going to attach some glue to the smaller parts of that and along the top. And I'm just going to attach that to the top of this pattern paper panel. I'm just making sure that it's nice and level. And then I'm just going to trim off from the back any excess. So I'm bringing in the stamp set again, and for this one I've decided to use the Hello Sunshine stamp. So before you attach the panel that's on the foam tape, make sure you stamp your sentiment on the card base, otherwise it's going to be very tricky to stamp it. So once I've stamped it, I'm going to remove the backing tape from those foam pads, and I'm just going to attach that panel at the bottom half of the card. And then just to finish, I've got a few red enamel dots. I always like to place these and then press them down once I'm happy with the placement. So yeah, just a little tip. And there's a close-up of the finished second card. So for the third card, I'm going to use this blue tissue paper now. I'm sorry that the measurements are slightly off screen, but again, I cut this down to 3 3/4 by 5.5. And I've got this embossing folder from Sizzix, and I'm just going to run that through my embossing machine. And this is just going to add a little bit of extra interest to the background. So you've got this gorgeous swirly pattern now and all the texture from the tissue paper as well. So I'm going to attach that down to the card blank. I'm just, again, using the Cosmic Shimmer glue for this. And I'm just going to make sure that it's central and there's a nice white border around the outside. Then I've got 3 squares of the floral paper. And I'm just going to round off the corners diagonally opposite each other. So just 2 of the corners are rounded on each of the squares. And I'm just going to stagger those on the card as so. I'm just going to add some foam tape to the back of them. Again, just to give it a little bit of dimension and a bit more added interest. And once I've stuck that bottom one down, the one that's going to be central is only going to need foam pad on the one side. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of glue on the other side, just so that it attaches there nicely. For the sentiment for this one, I choose to use the thank you stamp. And I stamp it out twice because I wasn't quite happy with the first stamped impression that I made. I then bring in my mini Tim Holtz trimmer, and I'm just going to trim that sentiment down. I'm actually really loving this small trimmer. I didn't think I needed all 3 size trimmers, but this one sits on my desk and I'm using it all the time. So yeah, it was a worthwhile purchase. So I've rounded all the corners this time on the sentiment so that each corner's rounded. I'm going to pop it on a little bit of foam tape. And then I've got this die cut butterfly, and this is a Sizzix die that came with my big shot when I first bought it as like a starter pack. So I'm just going to stick that down, and then I'm adding some enamel dots, again, just to finish off the card. So yeah, another really quick and easy card, using up the tissue paper, and again, I think it just looks really pretty. So for the 4th card, we're going to make a shaker card this time. So again, I'm trimming down a panel, 3 3/4 by 5.5. And I'm just bringing in my big shot, and I've got this heart die. This is a Hero Arts Infinity die. And I've just cut that aperture out so we can put the heart to one side because we can use that again for something else later. I'm just going to add some red line tape around the heart, and we're going to attach the acetate to this. So red line tape's very strong double-sided tape. So once I've peeled the backing paper off, I'm going to attach the piece of acetate and then just trim off any excess that's overhanging. And then I'm going to add foam tape all around the heart aperture. This will be the shaker window. And then I'm going to add some foam tape around the bottom of the card as well, so that it's all nice and even. On the front, first of all, I'm going to add a sentiment, and I'm going to use the sentiment smile this time. I've got this oval die cut, and I've just punched a hole either side. And then I'm going to use some of that gorgeous like mustard yellow string and weave that around the back, and that's going to attach the sentiment. We're going to use that to attach the sentiment to the card. So I'm just going to trim off the excess, and then to attach it to the back, if I'd thought about this, I could have perhaps put it under the foam tape, but anyway, I'm going to add a little bit of red line tape either side, and then I'm going to attach the string to that red line tape. This will just hold it in place. Later on, I'll also add some glue over the top of it as well. But the red line tape's pretty strong, so it does hold it really well. I'm just going to tuck those bits in, and then we can see where that sits on our card blank. So I was just seeing where the shaker window will be, and then I've got these gorgeous shaker beads from Lucy's shop. I'll link all these products in the description box below, and if I forget any, just ask in the comments, and I can always add those in. So I'm just going to add a little mix of both of those colours. Make sure that they're nice and central where the shaker window is going to be. Make sure there's no bits on the acetate or the card blank. And then I'm going to remove all the backing tape, and I'm also going to add a small amount of glue all over the card, all over the foam and the string. And then that will just give us a little bit of wiggle room when we place this down to make sure that it's nice and central. And so there's the finished card. I've left the sound on so you can hear the shaker. But yeah, I was really happy with how this one turned out. So for the final 2 cards, I'm determined to use the stickers. So first of all, I've got my Cutter Bee scissors, and I'm just going to take off some of that white border. I wanted it to be a little bit thinner than it was, so I'm just going to trim off that excess. Of course, I could have used it as it was, but I just prefer it with a thinner border. So because it's a sticker, I can just peel off the back and stick it down to this scalloped stitched die cut that I've got on my desk. I've added the sentiment Hello Sunshine because I just think that's apt for an ice cream, and I'm just adding some foam tape to the back of that panel for later. This was a card blank that I'd made a bit of a mistake on, and so here we are using a piece of the patterned paper to just cover that over. So yeah, don't always throw your mistakes away, you can always use them later. So I'm just peeling off the backing tape from the foam pads, and then I'm going to attach that down centrally to this card panel. And then I'm going to add a few gems just around the outside of the ice cream. This was a little sample packet of gems that came with my order from Lucy's shop. Again, I'll pop the links in the description below, but I've edited a lot of this. It took me forever to decide which colours and where to place them. So I'm just using my reverse tweezers and some quick grab glue to attach them down. And this made for a really quick and easy card if I hadn't took so long deciding where to put the gems. So for the final card of today's video, I've got a panel of white cardstock that I've cut to 4.5 inches squared. I'm just going to cover it in the Slap It On matte medium, and then I'm just going to layer over this piece of tissue paper that I've got left of the patterned paper. Because this is going to be on the card front, I've folded all the edges over just so that it's really nice and neat. Again, I can trim off the excess and save that for later. Then I've die cut a circle out of the blue paper, and then I've got a die cut circle of white cardstock. I've already gone ahead and trimmed off the white border from this sticker, and then I've got a tag from my stash that I'm going to use with the other piece of yellow twine. So first of all, I'm just going to add some foam tape to the back of the blue circle, and then for the white circle, to attach it down, I used way too much Slap It On, so I'm just going to use some of that on the back of that circle. Then for the tag, I'm going to take off the string so that I can stamp a sentiment on it. I'm going to use the With Love, and then there's an XOXO, Hugs and Kisses stamp, and I'm just going to stamp that down on the tag as well. For the tag, I'm just going to take a couple of strands off the string, thread that through the tag so it's a little bit thinner for on the card, and then I'm going to take another strand from the string and wrap it around the sticker a few times. Add a little bit of double-sided tape on the back just to hold that in place, and then I'm just going to trim off any excess string. Again, I'm going to use some double-sided tape just to hold the tag in place on the back of the card, and then I'm going to add a little bit of glue just for extra strength. I'm going to add some foam pads to the back of the sticker, and then once I've peeled off the backing tape, I'll attach that to the centre of that card. I'm going to attach the whole panel to a card blank. This is a shop bought 5-inch squared card blank, and I'm just going to attach that down to the centre there. For the tag, I'm going to add a little piece of foam tape just to hold that in place, and there's the finished card. So I think in total we've made 6 cards today. I did carry on making cards, and I think in total I've made about 10. I'm going to attach some close-up photos to the end of this video now so that you can take a look at them all. But thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. I'm sorry that it's a little bit longer than normal, but I really wanted to get as many cards made using the packaging just to show what you can do if you receive any pretty packaging. So thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more from my channel. And yeah, see you in the next video. Take care.